morning. April 5th, 2020. It's a Sunday morning. It's very, very quiet here. Quiet everywhere. I just wanted to bring a little bit of perhaps a different perspective to the days and the day's events. The Chinese word for crisis is composed of two characters. The first is danger and the second is opportunity. I think the majority of our psychological and emotional diets these days is focused on danger. And I think it's time to also bring opportunity into the mix. Perhaps past the mix, bring opportunity into the forefront. We're in a place where we're being confronted with the fact that our definition of self, of who we are, has been so small that we've lost the context that's enabled us to survive as a species, as co-species. When the definition of self is such that I'm bound by this skin, and this is the whole entity that is self, then everything else is other. If everything else is other, then we're in the land of danger, right? Because it's this versus that. And that's very, very big. And this is very, very small. As much as this universe that's been constructed, fabricated perhaps, conditioned, seems to think it's an entire universe, obviously it's quite small. And quite vulnerable. So if we can define self in a different way, perhaps we can find a way to not only survive, but to thrive, perhaps not only to be existing, but to be magnificent. To be magnificent. Yeah. Magnificent. If the self is this, then all else is other. If the self is this and my family, then all other families are other. And we have the situation where I can walk past the house next to me and see that it doesn't matter that perhaps they can't get something taken care of that I could do for them, but it's not my family. Then perhaps we have levels, of course, of identification, right? There's me that's really the center. Then there's my family, which is really the important next center. Perhaps the family is, people are different, the situations are different. But then comes my neighborhood, perhaps my city, perhaps my country, perhaps my continent, people that look like me, think like me, then perhaps my species, then perhaps sentient beings, then perhaps animals. Then we're getting into a much larger kind of identification, a much larger, more broad, realistic, let's say. Realistic in the sense that it's going to put us in a place where we can both be happy, joyful, peaceful, and be beautiful. Perhaps I'll touch on responsibility another day, and responsibility being the center of the whole thing. There are a lot of centers. It's a diamond. If you look at the diamond, the heart is the heart. Everybody's headed towards that same heart. Even if they're going away from the heart, their intention, their desire, their motivation is towards that center of that diamond, which is a complete unified heart. It's the diamond heart. It's the heart of absolute unity where there is no separation. There is only one experience of being, inclusive and including all. And in that place, there's absolutely no discord. There's no fear, there's no worry, there's no past and there's no future, except for on a practical level. It's unbelievable. And that's what we're all headed for. Even if you're lighting the crack pipe, even if you're chasing some pleasure that's going to leave you empty and further down than you were before, you're still looking for that. I'm still looking for that, because we're looking to become one. That's it. We are one. We just don't know that we are, because we're very confused. So, in this age of challenges, to identify with the small self, with this here, is extremely fearful. I'm afraid I'm going to get coronavirus from that person. I'm worried I'm going to infect the other person. That's a broader sense of self, right? I'm worried about infecting the other person. That sense of community, that sense of responsibility for others is coming forth. That is the drive. That is the deeper, that's a facet. It's a facet of the deeper, more inclusive sense of self. You get sick. We are sick. You are healthy. We are healthy. We. So, to define the self as a being, not just me and my family, not just me and my family, me and the people around me. Because think of all of the conflict, every single problem in the controllable realm, everything that's controllable, that is influenceable, that can be dealt with, that has the potential, the possibility, the reality, the central core of solution within it, comes from misidentification. Why am I fighting with my boss? Why am I fighting with my partner? Why am I fighting with myself even? I've even divided myself into good and bad. Divided myself into all kinds of crazy faces and masks that I show to different people. It's nuts. It's nuts. And it's very painful. It's very painful. And then when it gets a little broader, identify my sports team, identify my political party, identify my religion, identify my race, identify my creed, my gender. I'm not going in order of importance, I'm just going in order of what's occurring. And there's big ones and then there's small ones, and it goes all the way down in terms of whether I like Brussels sprouts and you don't. And we could actually argue about that. Right? I mean, come on. So, to identify the self is inclusive of everything. Skin bag. Thought pockets. Thought constellation universe. Everyone else's skin bags and thought constellations. One. The animals, the plants, the earth. Where do I draw the line? As soon as I draw a line, I'm dissatisfied because I don't want to be bound by anything. I'm a human being, man. I want to be everything. I want it all. So do you. But we can't have it all physically because that's impossible. Why would we want it all physically? If we've had any experience with life, we realize once we attain something on the physical level, it quickly becomes empty and invariably leaves us with a deeper hole that needs to be filled, that we're looking for, a greater desperation. And what we need to do in that place of desperation, of greater desperation, is find an even stronger stimulus. That's why the pornography, the alcohol, the sex, the money, any of those things, you can get some, then next time you need a little bit more. It gets a little bit more perverse, a little bit more separating, a little bit more lonely. So what are we doing? We're looking for love as though it's something you can collect, that you can own, that you can have. You don't have it. I don't have it. We are it. And being it means that there's no separation. It's a definition of self that doesn't limit it to body, mind. Mind meaning conscious mind, meaning conscious. Meaning thinking mind. Conscious mind, perhaps. These words are all we slip easily, right? We slip easily in terms of meaning and significance. Body, thinking mind, race, color, creed, gender, nationality, species, living versus non-living. What kind of absolute self-destruction are we doing to ourselves by not treating the earth as ourselves? My God, it's like, wake up, wake up, wake up, wake up, wake up. Here we are on the verge of incredible possibility. Incredible possibility. We're floating with all this fear and worry and isolation and the news. Yes, okay. We take care on the physical level. We're conscious. None of these things say we don't be careful and conscious. What it does say is that on the level where we actually live, on the conscious level, We define ourselves as no longer bound by our little isolated, fearful universes. We define ourselves as boundless, as universal, as absolutely unlimited. Yeah, that's right, unlimited. And in that place, the possibility right now for us to access that, remember, crisis, danger, opportunity. I started by talking about the Chinese characters for crisis, 2 characters, danger and opportunity. I know some people are just getting tuned in now, so I'm just... Danger, opportunity. The whole world is on the danger tip. And there's plenty of opportunity tip going on as well, where there's community building, there's compassion, there's all sorts of wonderful things like that. I'm just saying right now is the second, is the moment. And really the place to find it is in stillness, and lo and behold, it's Sunday morning. I'm living in Flushing, Queens. It is always, Sunday has a certain special silence to it, but never like this. There's no roar of the freeway. You know, maybe a half a kilometer and a half from here, I can hear that. Airplanes, every minute and a half, you look in the sky, there's 5 airplanes, no airplanes, no sound. The air is better. The earth is healing like that. 2 weeks, 3 weeks of this quietness, and the stillness is an opportunity to contact that greater self, that bigger self. There's a lot of words for it: meditation, consciousness, contemplation. But the point is stillness. I don't want to start citing things because I don't want to alienate anybody. But the truth is, opportunity. This moment. Let's take this moment to widen our circle of consciousness, our identification of self, to include all. Planet, all living beings. Plants, all living beings. All humans. Widen our circle of compassion so that we're actually no longer bound by this little self. We know how the little self can be quite unpleasant most of the time. As much as we present a positive face and we play the game, it's not as easy as we're pretending. Oh, they're so wonderful, so this and that. Get into it. You'll see there's probably a lot more going on than meets the surface. And we play these surface games with each other. I'll believe your surface, you believe my surface, then we'll go out in different directions and we'll be alone and we'll cry. We're not going to go alone and cry anymore. We're going to go alone and be together. Because our definition of self is no longer this lonely, isolated self. It's now the oneness. Not attaining, finding, looking for love. Being love. Being that which is infinite. I have to go. My son's here. We'll talk soon.